your play style as a center? Where do you feel you're most comfortable with scheme-wise?
In all honesty, I think that I have the capabilities through God to play in all schemes, gap, zone, whatever a team needs me to do. But I think my best intangibles definitely has to be being smart, being quick, and being able to hold point.
Last year, Broderick Jones went first round. What is it about that Georgia program that develops offensive linemen like that?
Yeah, so I think Coach Smart has done a tremendous job of getting some great offensive line coaches, starting with Coach Pittman and Coach Lou, all the way to Coach Stacy Searles. I think they've done a tremendous job of just developing us, and I would even say going back to Eddie Gordon, he played a big role in a lot of those guys. So I think it just goes back to getting some qualified guys and guys taking the coaching.
Have you gotten to speak to Broderick throughout this process?
I've talked to him a little bit.
What did he say to you?
Just making sure that I take advantage of my opportunities. That was the biggest thing. Just trying to tell me, I guess, some of the hiccups and things that he may have came across to try to avoid. To just make sure that I can have the ultimate success for myself.
Sedrick, talk to me, a little bit about your love for sports. Where did it start, and also did you meet with the Cincinnati Bengals?
So, my love for sports, I think my earliest memory of my love for football probably came out with Chris Johnson. Absolutely loved him with the Titans. Dude was electric. That was also one of the first drawings I've ever done. Was of him. So that's probably the first time I realized, this would be pretty cool to be able to play this sport one day. So I probably started with him. And then as far as the Bengals, I did not meet with them.
Hey, Sedrick, have you met with the Las Vegas Raiders?
I've not.
And what would it mean to you to get to play for a storied franchise like that?
I think it would be an amazing opportunity. I think the biggest thing for myself is whatever team I get to, I want to try to come in as soon as possible and try to help to add to their culture because ultimately the goal is to win. I think that the draft is an amazing opportunity, but it's one stop. Ultimately, once you get there, the goal is to try to win. I think it starts there.
Is your name French or Cajun? Or?
My last name is actually Dutch. Van Pran is Dutch.
You said
yes, I did move to Dallas Cowboys. I was able to speak to him.
How did it go?
About 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. I think going well. I was able to talk some ball, talk about some things I did well, some things I did not do well, and look forward to fixing. But I think it went great. Learned a lot about them, their organization, great organization. So I think the meeting went very well. I did meet with the Chicago Bears.
And how did you speak with Paul and Coach Lewis? How did that go?
Yes, ma'am. I spoke to everyone. I think it was another great interview as well. I think that's something that I've been able to do through this process so far is be able to get in front of some guys and have great interviews.
the Steelers seem to be putting together a Georgia offensive line with Darnell and Broderick. How would you fit in with those guys?
Yeah, it's funny you called Darnell a lineman, but I think it would be a great fit for sure. Being back with some of the guys from Georgia, being able to click with those guys, it would be amazing. A lot of chemistry there, so it's definitely would be something that we would look forward to try and, I guess, keep building that culture up over there because they have a great historic program.
Sedrick, you mentioned earlier about taking advantage of opportunities. What's thinking about with NIL? Normally you don't think of linemen doing that, but there have been linemen who have started getting good NIL deals. Those got a preoccupation. What's been your involvement?
As far as NIL, I didn't have a bunch of engagement there. I tried to do as much as I could, but ultimately the end goal was to try and win. That's not something that we accomplished this year, so failed season for myself.
You classified yourself as a smart center. What does a center need to know to be classified like that?
Everything. I think it's that simple. You need to know the ins and outs. You need to know what the quarterback's thinking. You need to be a great communicator. So I think all of those things matter.
I think there's a question in the back. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, Sedrick, what was it like playing with Amarius Mims at Georgia?
Oh man, Mims is a great teammate. Absolutely love that guy. He has this infectious energy about him. Lights up a room when he walks in. I think the best thing about him is just that he was able to recall and understand everything in the offense. So I think that guy is really, really smart, great football player.
I love you, Sed.
Love you too, brother.
Sedrick, you're a pretty notorious leader at the University of Georgia. As your career kind of resets and you're now a rookie again, how are you going about the leadership process on your next venture?
So to answer your question, I guess the reset in the NFL, I think the biggest thing for myself is finding your role early, right? So if you're to a team that's has a lot of veterans, getting with those veterans, finding out how they do things immediately, finding out what's the culture there, what's the standard, and then I think after that, it's trying to, into the next couple of years, add your own flair to that to help build, to help add in a good way to what's going on there. And if you're going to a team that's maybe a little bit younger, doesn't have a lot of different leaders, is stepping up as one, and then bringing some of the things that you learned at Georgia about winning and how to prepare and all of those things, and try to incorporate it to the NFL to hopefully create a system and a culture of winning there.
Sedrick, you did a lot of big blocks for your time at Georgia. A lot of big blocks for you guys in the tournament or something like that. If you could choose one block during like this past season or during your career that kind of like really plays in your head that if you had to highlight yourself, what would it be for you?
I would say I would have to go back to my sophomore year just because it was my first year playing, redshirt freshman year. I would either say the Tennessee game on the road, pulled around and made a big block. I would also say SEC championship my first year, pulling around against Alabama, making a big block. That was pretty fun for me.
Who are centers in the NFL that you studied to make your game better?
Eric McCoy for sure.
Cedric, speaking of plays in your career, you had a 6-yard rush, I believe, against Vanderbilt. Kind of talk about that play a little bit more went out.
Well, first, bad snap. That was the number one thing, bad snap. But up until that point, if I'm remembering properly, we were losing, and that was a big third down in that game. So after the mistake, the biggest thing for myself was realizing you got to make a play, because I didn't want to really hear what was going to be said to me on the sideline. So at that point, you try to make a play and keep the drive going.
Sedrick, what went into your decision not to play in the Senior Bowl, and what do you want to show teams this week when they watch you work out?
So I was advised by my agent not to. That was the plan he had for myself, and I trust him. So that's what I did. Other than that, my plan this week is to show that I can play all 3 interior positions and just try to be as smooth as possible.
Cedrick, as the center, how personally do you take that role of being the quarterback in the offensive line?
It's extremely personal to be the quarterback of the offensive line. I think the biggest thing in football you can have is trust, and that's something that I take very, very personal. Just for the simple fact of, I think that when you have that trust to the guys to the left and to the right of you, and they depend on you for, to be honest, to feed their family, I think it's something huge, and I think it builds a lot of camaraderie there.
Adam felt like the personnel folks, if they were to go back, as Coach Smart, what type of leader is Sedrick? What do you think he would say?
Coach Smart once told me that I was a black and white leader, in the sense of I see things very clear, right is right, wrong is wrong. There is no in between, and if the standard is right, that's what we're going to do.
When you met with the Chicago Bears, sometimes they put guys through a competition drill where they have them play darts or pop-up. Did they put you through that?
When I met with the Chicago Bears, it was myself and the rest of the coaching staff.
But they have a very outside zone heavy scheme. How do you think you can help, make that grow in Chicago?
So I think definitely it would be a fit there. In my opinion, I don't think outside zone is anything different than we've been doing as far as football. Definitely think there's room to grow there for sure, but in all honesty, I think that I could come in and help and do the best that I could, because at the end of the day, I feel like it's still football. Take what coaches teach you and implement it there.
Can you talk about your technique, snapping the ball with consistency?
Are you asking me like what I did in college, or as opposed to the outside zone scheme?
Just in general, your technique and approach to snapping the ball with consistency.
If I'm being 100% honest with you, I think that I've taken so many reps snapping the ball, it's kind of second nature. It's not really something you think about.
Sedrick, have you met with your receivers at the combine?
Yes, I have.
What would it be like, again, just kind of like playing with your former teammates that are now, that were at Georgia now in Pittsburgh? Is there any memories that kind of come to mind with those guys, that kind of stick out with you when you were playing with them?
So one, to answer your question, I think it'd be great to be able to link up with those guys again and just, I guess, have another reunion there. But ultimately, like I said, the goal for any team I get to is to try and win. So while it would be nice, ultimately we have to figure out a way to gel again and figure things out on the next level. But if I had to figure out any memories or anything like that, it will probably be the parade after the first national championship, seeing Broderick and Darnell and all those guys, just how ecstatic they were and the looks that they had on their faces.
Sedrick, 45 consecutive starts at the center position. and you said you want to prove that you can play all three. Was offensive guard or guard something you were repping and practicing during your time at Georgia? We just didn't get to see it on Saturday.
Yeah, so I repped it a bit my senior year. It's definitely something that Coach Searles gave me the opportunity to do, definitely for this moment for sure. But it's just not something that I was asked to do as far as for the team on game day. So didn't get to see it live, but it was because that wasn't my role for the team, and I'm okay with that.
Sedrick, you got to play under center for Carson Beck this last year. You know what he's capable of. Do you have any predictions as far as what he can accomplish in 2024?
I'm not going to make any predictions on what Carson can do, just for the simple fact I feel like that's unfair to that guy. But one thing I would say, Carson is extremely smart. He has all of the intangibles. Big arm, big heart. I think that he'll do an amazing job leading that team to success.
Did you meet with the Cowboys this week?
I did meet with the Cowboys.
Was that formal?
Formal.
What do you think about that meeting and what do you think about the franchise?
I think this is a great franchise. I think the Cowboys have a lot of rich history there. The meeting went great. I feel like I aced it, so I was really excited about that.
How much pride do you hold putting on for New Orleans and Warren Easton?
How much pride do I hold in New Orleans, Warren Easton? In my opinion, it's who I am. It's what made me, outside of my parents. I feel like New Orleans has played a huge part in who I am today as a man and how I carry myself. So it'll always be something special in my heart.
Sedrick, what do you see as Amarius Mims as he makes the transition to the pro game? He didn't start that many games in college, especially compared to a guy like you. But what does he need to do to kind of have a very successful launch as a professional?
Well, I'll say this: number one for Amarius, in my opinion, when you have that level of God-given ability, you don't need to play 40-something games to be a good football player. He has the gift of God. He doesn't need to go out there and get 1,000 reps. He's a good football player. And the one thing that I'll say that I'm really, really proud of him, that he's grown since a freshman until now, is his level of maturity. He's really, really taking the game serious. He's grown himself. He's done the work to become the man that he is today, and I'm super proud of him for that.
Sedrick, you're obviously interested in art. I'm curious, 15 years from now when football's done, what are you going to do? What are you interested in?
Yeah, that's a great question. So hopefully 15 years from now, I can either be making logos, perhaps getting back inside to the football side, maybe getting a job at Georgia or something, making logos or editing videos or something, or eventually I want to start my own clothing brand. So I think that would be pretty cool to get in that side of the business too.
Sedrick, being a center, you kind of have to be the captain of that offensive line in the offense. You got to read some coverage and stuff like that. Tate Ratledge talked about how he's kind of going through that process and trying to fill your shoes of being the captain, and he said he's struggling a little bit with that. Talk about that challenge of being kind of the captain of the offensive line.
So I'll say this: number one, if Tate, you're watching, you don't have to fill my shoes. Be yourself, man. You're a great leader. You lead by example. You don't have to be the vocal guy like Nolan was or myself was. That doesn't need to be you. There's other ways to lead. But I will say this, for myself, leading has always been kind of natural for me. Since a child, I've always felt this immense care for the guys that you call your brothers and the people that you love, to make sure that they're taken care of. And I think one of the biggest forms of care is looking after those guys and making sure they're doing the right things, ultimately for the biggest team goal of winning. That's just how I look at it. So for myself, leading is just kind of who I am. Whether it's leading, other guys as the top leader, or being the guy that supports other leaders, whatever I have to do, that's just kind of who I am.
What do you see of
you're a big family guy. Who among your family have been able to participate in this part of history?
So I think my dad has been the most active in this process for myself. My mom has done a little bit here and there, but I can be honest and say my mom is more of a get your degree type person. In all honesty, I don't think my mom really even understands or knows how big this moment truly is. Just for the simple fact that she's always been a person who is about education, not super invested into football, super invested into her son, but not so much the football side. So I would say probably the biggest investment is probably my dad, which I guess is a little bit cliche, but probably my father.
What do you think of Jared?
I think this moment is huge, and I say that she doesn't understand how big the moment is for the simple fact of she's not a huge football fan. She's more of a person, get your education, that type of thing. Yeah, so for myself though, this is a huge moment. This is a thing that you've been praying for since a child, something that, not to speak in a harsh way, but something that you would have done some bad things for as a kid to get to this moment. And I think that's just the biggest thing, is just honing in on this and understanding that although you may have things that don't always go your way, or you may feel some type of way, enjoy the moment, man. This is something special, something that's been, I guess, given to you by God, and just be super grateful for it.
Did you give any
Last question.
any big
Last question.
pointers to Jared Wilson stepping into that position? Jared Wilson.
Have I given him any pointers? Yeah, so Jared, we talked a lot. I got Jared going probably about 2 years ago, watching film with me and just teaching him different things on how to dissect film and what you're looking for, how to figure those guys out. And I think Jared is going to be amazing this year. I really, really do think that Jared has a big year coming for him. I'm super excited for him and I'm praying for him.
Thanks, Sedrick.
Thank
God bless
you.
you.